You're listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wyatt. Of all the mammals in Mississippi, what do you think we have the most of? Well, right up near the top of the list is bats. We have a lot of bats in Mississippi. And to tell us all about it today, Jack Creely, a biologist from the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science.
Mississippi Outdoors is sponsored by Entergy Mississippi. Entergy is building a stronger and cleaner grid to power a brighter future and protect our great outdoors for generations to come.
You're listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wyatt. And today we're talking bats with Jack Creely, wildlife biologist here at MDWFP. Jack, how often do you get called in to answer questions about bats?
Not often. Not often.
Not often. Okay, and I want to start you with this. Chip brought this up to me in discussion earlier. He heard through the grapevine, he thought he heard that bats are the most numerous of any mammal that we have, that there's more of them than anything else.
They are the second most mammal behind rodents.
Okay.
So we have more rodents like mice and rodents than that.
Than bats.
Yep.
And that's true here in Mississippi.
Yes.
Okay, so and I guess this opens the door to maybe kind of getting as specific as you want to get. What kind of bats do we have in Mississippi?
We have 14 species of bats. They're all the Vespertilionidae. They all eat insects.
14 different
14
species. And if they're eating insects, I'm assuming that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. They're eating about half, or they're eating their body weight in insects at night.
Wait a minute.
And
every night?
Yeah, one night. They're eating their body weight in insects.
Okay, time out. You're saying every bat in Mississippi eats its weight in insects every night?
Probably so, yeah. I mean, yeah.
That is incredible. Okay, because the inverse of that would be if I close my eyes and think, well, what if we didn't have any bats? How many insects would we have?
We'd have a lot more insects, a lot more mosquitoes, a lot more beetles, moths. Farmers would lose their crops probably more often from, bugs and everything.
Yeah.
If we didn't have bats.
That's pretty incredible. All right. I got more bat questions coming now, but I have a question about you. So, how did you wind up in this role where now you're our bat expert?
Yeah. I was at school at Delta State, getting my wildlife management degree, and got an email from one of my professors saying, an internship is opening up at the Museum of Natural Science. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'll do that. And I did that for a summer. I did mostly bird stuff, like bird prepping and going into the bird collection and everything. It was during COVID, so we couldn't do any field work. So I was at the museum the whole summer just doing bird prep, inventory in the mammal collection and everything. Went back to school and finished my degree. And I asked our assistant director now, Aaron Holbrook, hey, can I come back? And he was like, yeah, you start May 10th. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yes.
I'm back. And I worked with Caitlin, our mammologist, and been there ever since.
Ever since.
Yeah.
So at the Museum of Natural Science, what's kind of daily routine? What's your work like there?
Well, right now we're doing a lot of bat stuff. We're going into caves and culverts and swabbing for white nose syndrome.
Okay.
When I'm not in the field, I'm at the museum prepping mammals to go into the mammal collection.
When you say prepping mammals,
yeah,
what are we talking about?
So we have big freezers in the back and just full of frozen mammals that mostly are roadkill, and people bring them to us if they're still in good condition. And we'll skin them and clean off the skin and then stuff them with cotton, sew them back up, and goes into the mammal collection.
Into the collection. Yeah. What's the most interesting thing you think you've seen there?
Like that I've prepped? Or
that you've prepped.
I've prepped a couple of black bears.
How about that?
Yeah. Some beavers, otters.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, just all the mammals. Yeah.
What are those used for? Like, I mean, are they used for research purposes? Do y'all get a lot of grad students and stuff to come look at your collection?
Yeah, we get a lot of tours that, from Millsaps. They come over and, tour through the research side of the museum. But it's really just, it's preserving that specimen from that time and space. So 100 years down the road when we're all gone and everything, and hopefully that collection's still going, they'll maybe their gray squirrel looks incredibly different 100 years from now.
Okay, so you mentioned caves this time of year,
yeah.
and caves, culverts,
like road culverts, yeah.
Okay, and swabbing. I would imagine there was a first time that you went into a cave with bats or went into a culvert with bats. Were you always okay with that, or do you kind of?
Yeah, I was fine with it. It's cool. It's very cool.
Do you find that some people, when they hear what you do,
they
are a little bit like,
they shriek.
What?
Yeah.
Why is that? I wonder. They're afraid of bats.
I think it's just going into a cave. They're like, ooh, scary. Or like going under the road into culverts. Spiders everywhere. Water's dripping down. It's just kind of gross.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think Hollywood about bats. They've put a bad reputation about bats. Bats won't attack you. They won't suck your blood. They won't get caught in your hair.
They're not interested in you.
No, they're not.
They're looking for a mosquito or the next insect.
Maybe a bug flew by your head. And it swooped down and grabbed the bug.
Yeah, I did mention to you when you came in today that one of the first things I thought of when I saw bats on the subject was that scene in Goonies, where they look down the hole and all of a sudden bats, and here they come flying out. So Hollywood has, taught us, I guess, to be afraid. Mm-hmm. Caves. We have caves in Mississippi.
We do. We have caves. They're not like big, extensive caves like Tennessee and up north, but they are considered caves.
Northern part of the state or
southern
part of the state,
southeast-ish,
really?
Wayne County.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
I wouldn't either.
I would have thought that it would have been up in
like Tishomingo.
Yeah, Tishomingo. There's everything like that.
There's one, we call it Land of Caves. It's pretty cool. It's just it's on somebody's property, and it's just a bunch of little caves everywhere. And there's a chalk mine up there that they used in World War II, I think, to mine chalk out of. It's right off of Pickwick Lake.
Yeah. It's considered a cave too, or
it's a chalk mine, but yeah.
And you say you go in and you're swabbing for what?
We're swabbing for the fungus that causes white nose syndrome.
And what is that?
It's called Pseudogymnocardinal ascus destructans. PD for short.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be saying PD from now on.
Okay. That's perfect.
That. Yeah. It is the fungus that can cause white nose syndrome. So the majority of our culverts and most of all our caves are positive for PD.
And when you say white nose syndrome, why is that what is that and why am I afraid of that?
It won't hurt us, but it is a deadly fungus that can just wipe out the bat population.
Okay. And therefore, if that were to come to that, we've got more insects, just like you said a little while ago. So when you get down to the bat population in Mississippi, let's go back to just how beneficial they are. Let's say I'm a landowner, farmer maybe, and I've got an insect problem, or I feel like I've got an insect problem. And I want bats.
You want bats.
I want more bats.
Okay.
What might I do to attract them?
The only two things I guess you could really do is maybe if you're out in the field on like a farm and you have a light post out there, that will attract all the bugs, and then the bats will follow. And another thing is a bat house. You would want to put a bat house up about 8 feet high on a pole around some water sources. That would attract some bats, maybe, or maybe not. They're very finicky about bat houses.
I think about bluebirds, for example. You can put up bird houses but bluebirds are really picky about the distance they want to be away from people and the amount of space they need to be able to have straight line sight and all that. So I guess bats are a little bit similar.
Yeah.
What does a bat house look like?
I couldn't when you asked that question, Chip, I couldn't help but in my Hollywood, I flashed here's the door that raises and the Batmobile goes driving into his cave. Sorry about that, but very different, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's just it's a box about the normal ones are about yay big, yay wide, and about that long, about that tall. And it's just made of cedar wood, and it has a couple of slots at the bottom of it where they can go inside and roost. And you just stick it on a pole.
Do you think my neighbors would get mad if I put one up in my backyard?
Maybe not.
Okay.
Maybe.
It convince your neighbors it's going to help with the mosquito problem.
Yeah.
They eat mosquitoes.
They do. Yeah.
Okay.
Mosquitoes, beetles, moths, all the little bugs.
Okay. In those bat houses,
Mhm.
they rest hanging upside down like the images that we've
Yeah.
seen. That's how they.
Yeah, they just crawl up in, they fly, they go up in, and they just all get up in there together.
Yeah.
Just hang out. All
Right.
upside down. They're all upside down.
In that size, a normal size bat house.
Yeah.
How many might live in there?
Probably like 100 to 200.
In one
300.
bat house?
Yeah, they all squeeze up in there.
Wait, how
together.
wide is it?
3 feet, maybe 2 feet.
Dang.
2 feet. Like there's a lot of different variations of bat houses, but the most common one's about 2 feet
Okay.
to 3 feet high, 4 feet high. Yeah,
So not very big.
they're not very big.
And easily 100 may
Yeah.
roost in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Of the 14 species of bats that we see in Mississippi, the range of their sizes, are there bigger ones and smaller ones?
Yes. Our big brown bat is one of our biggest bats. The hoary bat's a little bigger than the big brown bat.
Okay.
And then our smallest bat is the tricolor bat, and they all could fit in my hand. But the tricolor bat, just think of like a McDonald's chicken nugget.
Okay.
It's about that big.
Wow.
Like a tater tot.
It's tiny then.
Yeah. Their body is very small. Then they have the wings that go off. But yeah, their body itself is very small.
Okay.
Yeah.
The big brown bat.
Yeah.
Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, big brown bat.
Big brown.
Yeah.
Where are those?
You can find them in culverts.
But pretty much
houses.
statewide?
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Because I'm thinking of the ones that I've seen, at dusk.
Yeah.
And you'll see them, they'll
They're
fly
flying around,
in and
eating those insects for you.
eating those insects, and typically the whole thing seems like it's about the size of
Yeah.
my phone. And I guess that's pretty typical.
Yeah.
Do the different bats hang out with each other, or do they stick to their own species?
They do stick to their own species. I mean, we have seen in culverts the tricolor bat and the southeastern bat, the ones that use our culverts the most. They will sit beside each other in culverts and kind of sit on top of each other. But the majority, they just kind of stick to themselves. They're very solitary.
Are there predators? Do they have predators? Like, what's a threat to our bat?
They do.
population?
Owls, raccoons.
Well, and I can't help but think, okay, so you mentioned both of those, owls, and I know an owl can fly and raccoons
Yeah.
can't, but it's hard to imagine an owl or a raccoon being quick enough to catch a bat. And how would they do that?
Well, the raccoon makes me think of when we go into our caves, you can see claw marks on the walls. Well, they'll kind of climb up there and just grab one right off the wall
While they're asleep?
while they're in torpor, just sleeping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, which leads me to the rabies question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, that's something we wondered. It seems like I've always heard, the idea of rabies being associated with bats. I mean, it's always associated with raccoons.
Yeah.
But rabies, bats, that goes hand in hand.
Sort of. Yeah, bats can have rabies and they can carry rabies, but only less than 1% of bats have
Oh, so it's
rabies.
not that common.
It's not that common.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody freaks out. Like, oh, bats has rabies.
Right.
Not really.
Not really.
Yeah. They could, but it's a slight chance. Like I had to get my rabies, vaccines and everything to handle bats.
Okay.
Just in case they have rabies.
Okay.
But less than 1% of our bats have rabies.
So I'm really getting down to these, my questions are becoming more and more Hollywood.
Yeah.
Can they bite you?
Yeah. If you bother it. Like why you go outside, they're not going to bite you. But they bite me all the time.
Because you're handling it.
Because I have them, I'm holding it.
Yeah.
How would you feel if you were so small and somebody was holding you?
What is it? What's the experience like being bitten by a bat?
I've never been bitten without leather gloves on. So you can kind of feel it, especially the big brown because they're the biggest bat and they have big chompers. And you can feel it when they bite down on your fingers through the leather gloves and stuff.
So there's this term, I heard Chip talking about it, mist netting
Mist netting.
related to bats. What is that?
That is a research technique that we can do. You just go out and we have these nets. I think at the beginning of the summer, we went to Stennis Space Center because they wanted a bat survey to see what bats are out there. So we went out there and we put up our nets and we put them up right at sunset, and we'll keep them open until midnight. And we check the nets every 10 minutes, and we'll do that and we'll wait and hopefully we'll catch a bat. If we catch a bat, we walk up to it and take the bat out of the net. We'll measure its forearm, its reproduction status, gender, and then we'll release it.
Mm. The net, you mentioned the height.
Yeah.
So this is a vertical net that they fly into.
Yep. So go.
Do they get tangled in it?
They do.
Okay.
It's very thin. I think that's why it's a mist net, like mist.
Okay.
At night, you can't even see it. With our own eyes, you can't see it.
Okay.
So the bat probably couldn't see it.
Okay.
And bats aren't blind.
They're not blind.
They're not. People say you're as blind as a bat.
Yeah.
Bats they can see very fine. Very good. Bats are not blind. They use echolocation at night and they can see.
Well, where'd that come from?
I don't know. That's just a saying. You're as blind as a bat.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Again, I would say that as a kid coming up, my limited education on bats, albeit some of it from the movie Goonies and things like that, was that they felt their way around at night.
Yeah.
Audibly. They hear things. It's sonar. It comes back to them. I've seen that, and maybe that's just where I got the assumption that, they don't see, they hear.
Yeah.
But you say they can see.
They can see. Yeah. They can see fine.
So if it's, if it's light, it's not dark, it's daytime, it's light outside, they can, they find insects, they catch them by seeing them.
Well, they're nocturnal. Okay. So they do not come out during the day.
So they don't even see them during the day.
They don't even come out during the day.
So maybe that's part of it too. They're nocturnal and they use, the sonar at night.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, echolocation. Fishermen, sonar. They use echolocation. So they have eyesight. They just don't have to use it that much because they're nocturnal.
No. Yeah.
You have a football background. I was telling Chip, I do too, and I've been in a lot of football stadiums, and I've been in a lot of them when nobody else was there. It seemed like, early before a kickoff, and it seems like there's always bats in a football stadium.
Yeah. The Brazilian free-tail bat, they love football stadiums.
I wonder why that is.
I don't know. They just like the crevices up in the stadium where the joints are and everything. So, Southern Miss, I don't know if they still have one, but they used to. They had a huge roosting of Brazilian free-tail bats in the stadium.
Brazilian free-tail bats.
Brazilian free-tail bats.
How large are those? Just, I guess, typical hand size?
Yeah. Just smaller than about the size of your palm.
I've had a few experiences at Davis Wade Stadium, at State, and a few others where I might not see a bat, but I'm pretty sure I can smell them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not wrong in thinking.
You're not wrong. If you can smell them, especially free-tail bats and a maternity roost of southeasterns have a great stench.
Yeah, they really do.
They do.
That's a good way to describe it. Another one I thought you talk about the culverts.
Yeah.
In the military park in Vicksburg, on the South Loop, right as you leave the Welcome Center, you walk up and then you go down the hill and you walk under. What's the main street there? I can't think of it. But anyway, it's a huge, underpass that you're walking under to begin. And I walk that South Loop, and the smell always hits me. And I'm like, okay.
It's bad.
It's definitely bad. Yeah. And that would be one that size, like an underpass, overpass is a perfect place for them.
Yeah. Like when we go into, there's another man-made structure we call debris deflectors under bridges that just, when the water gets high, it pushes debris away from the columns, or they don't get entangled in the columns. But it's an opening and you can go in it. And during the summer, Southeasterns use it as a maternity roost, and there's thousands in there.
Yeah.
And it stinks.
You get 1,000 of anything.
And they're just pooping, peeing right there. Yeah. It smells.
Yeah. That's part of it.
Yeah.
So to sort of put a bow on it, Jack, For someone listening to this show that maybe like me, they didn't realize how many bats we had in terms of the number of the population, and maybe didn't realize how advantageous they are in the number of insects that they, eat in a day. What message for you from a biologist standpoint and a research standpoint, what message do we need to get in the hands of our public about bats in Mississippi?
Bats are very good for the ecosystem and everything. They don't want to hurt you, They don't want to get tangled in your hair. They're not trying to bite you. They're just eating, and just leave them alone.
Let them
be. Yeah. Just let them be a bat.
Yeah.
They're doing more good than bad.
Yeah. Really cool. Jack, thanks for being on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
How about that? Bats, they're good. Just let them be. Let them do their thing. Appreciate y'all listening to the show here on the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast, and we'll see you outdoors.